Russian forces concentrate weekend strikes on Ukraine's two biggest cities, killing one person and destroying a postal depot. The day begins slowly in Rojales on the Costa Blanca. It's time for a round of golf or a lazy coffee. This is how life is for the 300,000 British citizens, mostly retired, who have chosen Spain as their home.
We've worked all our lives, so we want to have fun.
In the cafes, people read English papers, news about places that feel distant from where they are.
España es el país con la mayor población de británicos de Europa. Aquí en Rojales superan en número a la población local. Dicen que se encuentran como en casa, pero el Brexit ha hecho su vida más complicada.
The UK's exit from the European Union has forced many Britons to return to their country every 3 months. And many who haven't secured permanent residency have sold their homes.
A disaster. They hadn't a clue what they were voting for.
The July 4th elections could change the political landscape in the UK, whose economy continues to be constrained by the consequences of Brexit.
Es curioso que en la campaña electoral no se habla del Brexit, pero es una especie de elefante en la habitación. Si gana el Partido Laborista, que también están siendo muy prudentes con esta cuestión, bueno, pues seguramente habrá un acercamiento mayor a Bruselas y al club comunitario.
Even so, most Britons living in Rojales say they won't vote.
I don't do politics, you know.
It's not worth the hassle. It's not worth the hassle.
But for those who wanted to vote, things haven't been easy either. The short notice of this election has prevented them from registering.
I have tried to vote, and yet again, because I'm in Spain, it has been very, very complicated. And I have to have a proxy vote, so I have to get someone in the UK to vote for me. But the time has now passed in order for me to get that in place.
As the UK prepares to go to the polls in a crucial election, these British citizens don't feel that the results will have any impact on their lives.
I would particularly want the government to look at freedom of movement, but that's tied up with immigration, and I think people are getting the wrong end of the stick, and they're so het up with immigration that they can't see beyond, which is why we had Brexit in the first place, really.
Whatever the outcome, tomorrow will be another sunny day in southern Spain. Hungary takes over the rotating presidency of the European Union on Monday. Some MEPs in Brussels may be wondering whether populist Prime Minister Viktor Orbán will use the role to continue to run counter to general EU consensus. In recent years, he's often blocked, watered down or delayed key EU decisions. Last week, the EU launched membership talks with Ukraine and Moldova. Orbán has voiced his opposition to Ukraine's candidacy and threatened to block it. His government has also held up EU efforts to channel badly needed funding into Ukraine.
Inclusivity.
Orbán has long been accused of dismantling democratic institutions and violating the EU standards on the rule of law. 2 years ago, the European Commission froze billions of euros in funds to Budapest over concerns about democratic backsliding. But some Hungarian officials have stressed that they plan to act constructively during the presidency.
A soros elnökség feladatainak ellátása kötelezettségünk, de mi erre elsősorban lehetőségként tekintünk. Az új intézményi ciklus elején vitát kezdeményezhetünk, és irányt mutathatunk számunkra fontos kérdésekben.
In Vienna on Sunday, Orbán presented a new parliamentary alliance with Austria's far-right Freedom Party and the main Czech opposition. The Patriots for Europe alliance comes after June's EU elections, which saw far-right parties make gains. And Orbán used the press conference to take a swipe at the EU.
Az európai emberek 3 dolgot akarnak: békét, rendet és fejlődést. És amit a mostani brüsszeli elittől kapnak, az a háború, a migráció és a stagnálás.
The EU presidency rotates among the bloc's 27 member countries, and while the post holds little real power, it does allow countries to put their priorities high on the European agenda. Russian forces concentrated their attacks at the weekend on Ukraine's two biggest cities. More than 2 years since the start of the war, Russia continues to target population centers and civilian infrastructure. In Kharkiv, one person was killed in a strike on a postal depot. 9 people, including an 8-month-old baby, were injured in that attack. Attacks on the capital, Kyiv, aren't as common as on other major urban centers, but on Sunday a missile strike damaged a residential apartment block. The city's mayor said a fire had broken out on the 8th and 9th floors, but there were no fatalities. Meanwhile, in the east, drone footage from Ukraine's military released on Sunday showed what appeared to be dead bodies in a civilian area in the town of Toretsk. The town in the Donetsk region has come under heavy Russian bombardment in recent days, prompting a scaled-up evacuation effort by Ukrainian rescue services.
Ужасная ситуация, и так как мы 3 дня вообще не могли вот это эвакуироваться. Еще нам вчера прилет разбило полностью наш дом, там очень сильно. Там ни стенок не осталось, вообще все вот так вот. Поэтому все на стрессе, на эмоциях, в слезах. Очень страшно.
In a post on X, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Russia had used 800 guided aerial bombs on targets across Ukraine this week alone. He renewed calls for more modern air defense systems to stop what he called daily Russian terror. Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico will reportedly have permanent health problems after surviving a shooting in May. The country's deputy prime minister said Fico, who was shot in the abdomen, would likely have permanent issues, but that his condition was gradually improving.
Brušnej dutiny, jednoducho tie orgány nepracujú ako keď ste mali 17 alebo 30, je to ešte stále veľmi nevypočítateľné. A lekári robia všetko preto aj v rámci tých pravidelných každodenných rehabilitácií, aby sa ten stav dal do situácie, že vlastne môžete, nehovorím, že nerušenie, lebo tie následky trvalé tam budú, to je to poškodenie aj toho pohybového aparátu, ale na to, aby mohol vykonávať svoju prácu s plným násadením, si myslím, že sa už blížime. Čiže to je rozhodujúce.
Slovakia's populist prime minister was shot at close range as he greeted supporters following a government meeting in Handlova on May the 15th. Video showed him approach people gathered at barricades to shake hands as a man stepped forward and fired 5 rounds before being tackled and arrested. Fico immediately underwent a 5-hour surgery to treat multiple wounds, followed by another surgery 2 days later to remove dead tissue. In late May, he was airlifted from the hospital in Banska Bystrica to the capital Bratislava, where he was nursed at home. Firefighters have scrambled to contain large-scale wildfires in Türkiye's southwestern Mugla province. Footage released by the Directorate of Forestry showed plumes of smoke rising in the district of Milas. On Sunday, officials said that a wildfire in Izmir province had been contained and largely put out. Wildfires are an annual problem in Turkey, with the country logging 74 so far this year.
The National Rally has dominated the first round of the French parliamentary elections as French voters throw their support behind the far-right party. Exit polls suggest they are followed by the left-wing coalition, the New Popular Front, while Emmanuel Macron's governing Ensemble party trails behind in 3rd place. Ipsos has projected the National Rally will gain between 230 and 280 seats in the National Assembly, meaning they would have to reach out to other parties to secure a majority. But if the party gains a parliamentary majority, they will have the opportunity to create the first far-right government in France since World War II. President Macron would also be forced to work alongside 28-year-old National Rally president Jordan Bardella as Prime Minister.
Ce soir, tous les Français attachés à leur liberté, au redressement de la France, à me rejoindre pour amplifier la dynamique et faire gagner l'union nationale face à ceux qui entendent nous diviser, abîmer l'ordre public et bafouer nos valeurs.
Responding to the first round results, current French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal warns that the far right is on the doorstep of power and urged voters to shun Le Pen's party when polls open again.
Je le dis avec la force que l'instant appelle à chacun de nos électeurs. Pas une voix ne doit aller au Rassemblement national. Dans de pareilles circonstances, la France mérite que l'on n'hésite pas. Jamais. Si nous voulons être à la hauteur du destin français, il est de notre devoir moral de tout faire pour empêcher le pire d'advenir.
Meanwhile, both Macron and Jean-Luc Mélenchon, founder of the left-wing party La France Insoumise, have said they will withdraw candidates in the second round in an effort to block the national rally from gaining legislative power.
Conformément à nos principes et à nos positions constantes dans toutes les élections précédentes, nulle part nous ne permettrons au RN de l'emporter, et c'est pourquoi, dans l'hypothèse où il serait arrivé en tête tandis que nous ne serions qu'en troisième position, nous retirerons notre candidature.
As the exit polls were announced, thousands of left-wing supporters gathered at Place de la République in Paris to protest against the rise of the far right. The second round of voting in the parliamentary elections will take place next Sunday.